Hey, what's good, everyone? This is Quad B with another impromptu live stream around noontime. It's actually 12:39 p.m. on Monday, the 21st of May, 2018, coming at you from downtown Washington, D.C., where um, it is, again, 12:39 p.m. And it is that time of year, folks. May and June, it's prom time, graduation for college students, and graduation for high school students. The college students usually in May, and the high school students usually in in June. And it's also that time when the United States Supreme Court issues a slew of rulings they've been hearing on cases they have been hearing since the Supreme Court term began in last October. And here is a opinion that just came out. A ruling just came out about an hour or so ago, and it is. Let's see. First of all, let's see who's in the chat right about now. Yo, DMV Nitro, how you doing? So anyway, um, let me go back real quick. So anyway, what we have here today is I've got it pulled up an article from a liberal site called Think Progress, which says Neil Gorsuch's first major opinion is a decision allowing bosses to steal wages from their employers. Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee is exactly who you think he is. Now, for those of you who might not remember, Neil Gorsuch is was picked by Donald Trump after the Senate Republicans held the Supreme Court seat open for a year that was vacated when Antonin Scalia died on some ranch in Texas. So then President Obama put forth a relatively middle of the road nominee named Merrick Garland as the Supreme Court nominee, and Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, said, "F no, we're not considering anything you have to say, Negro Obama. We're not going to consider anybody you put up. We're going to hold this seat open." And sure enough, once Trump became president, he appointed this Neil Gorsuch. And some of you may not remember, but his mom was a woman named Ann Gorsuch, who was once the head of the EPA under President Reagan. She got caught up in some kinds of scandals way back then. I can't remember what they are. Um, I can look them up, but well, that's neither here nor there. So let me read this to you guys. The Supreme Court held on Monday that employers can force their employees to sign away many of their rights to sue their employers. As a practical matter, Monday's decision in Epic Systems versus Lewis will enable employers to engage in small scale wage theft with impunity so long as they spread the impact of this theft among many employees. Neil Gorsuch, who occupies the seat that Senate Republicans held open for a year until Donald Trump could fill it, wrote the court's 5-4 decision. The court split along party lines, or, ideological lines, really is what the article should be saying. Anyway, Epic System involves 3 consolidated cases, each involving employment contracts, cutting off employees' rights to sue their employer in a court of law. In at least one of these cases, the employees were required to sign away these rights as a as a condition of starting their job. In another, existing workers were told to sign away their rights if they wanted to keep working. Each contract contained two provisions: a forced arbitration provision, which requires legal disputes between the employer and employee to be resolved by a private arbitrator and not by a real court, and a provision prohibiting employees from bringing class action against the employer, or what they really mean are class action lawsuits. Writing with his trademark smugness, and that's Think Progress's word, not mine, Gorsuch presents epic systems as a simple application of a legal text. The parties before us contracted for arbitration, he writes. They proceeded to specify the rules that would govern their arbitrations, indicating their intention to use individualized rather than class or collective action procedures. And this much the Arbitration Act seems to protect pretty absolutely. It's the sort of statement someone might write if they never read the Federal Arbitration Act, the law at the heart of this case, and had only read the Supreme Court's decisions expanding that act's scope. Broadly speaking, the Federal Arbitration Act requires courts to honor arbitration agreements and to ignore legal doctrines that disfavor arbitration as a method of resolving suits. Yet, the Act also exempts workers engaged in foreign or interstate commerce. Let's see. It goes into says here nevertheless in a 5-4 decision in Circuit City versus Adams, the Supreme Court held that the act applies to most workers engaged in foreign or interstate commerce. If Gorsuch were concerned with the text of the Arbitration Act, he might have called for additional briefing on whether Circuit City should be overruled. Instead, he compounded the court's error in Circuit City, all while insisting that an anti-worker outcome is required by the law's text. Let me just click over real quickly here. Found some pretty interesting tweets about this ruling. And let's see. You got this guy here who says Neil Gorsuch is the type of guy who reads The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. You might remember that book about some really hard conditions that Sinclair found in some meat packing plants. And it says here, Neil Gorsuch is the type of guy who reads The Jungle and thinks the workers are the villains. And someone else is here. You got a guy named Denzikin James who says, I'll never get over the fact that Neil Gorsuch is sitting in Merrick Garland's rightful seat in the SCOTUS. Republicans stole the presidency and a seat on the Supreme Court. Here, breaking. Neil Gorsuch voted against workers in their efforts to gain redress and justice. Gorsuch wrote the 5-4 majority opinion that allowed employers to prohibit employees from joining together to sue over pay and workplace conditions. And then Mr. James actually, he had something. This was earlier, because when you read Twitter, you're reading the latest tweets are at the top. Neil Gorsuch can eat shit. He is an illegitimate judge appointed by an illegitimate president after an illegitimate block on Garland's appointment thanks to shitty Republicans. Now, this is my favorite. Here is what Neil Gorsuch wrote. Again, the respective merits of class actions and private arbitration as means of enforcing the law are questions constitutionally entrusted not to the courts to decide, but to the policymakers in the political branches where those questions remain hotly contested. This court is not free to substitute its preferred economic policies for those chosen by the people's representatives. And then there's this. Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote the dissenting opinion, and it says here in this passage, in a rare move, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg read a dissent from the bench. She actually read it from the bench, which they usually don't do. warning the decision would lead to the quote, under enforcement of federal and state statutes designed to advance the well being of vulnerable workers. She called the majority ruling egregiously wrong and called on Congress to help to step in to update federal labor law. And just imagine if Ruth Bader Ginsburg were to leave the Supreme Court would be ruthless. Get it? Ruthless. Sorry about that, folks. I couldn't help myself. Let's see who's in. This is a good time as any to see who is in the chat. Okay. Companies need to steal your money so they can trickle it back down to you. Ellie Grace, this is one of the lead reasons I'm leaving America. Ooh, we only got 2 watching. Okay. So, okay. Well, folks, this is this is the world. This is the world we live in, folks. This is the world we live in. Um, so uh, you might recall, as far as arbitration agreements, that's where everything is going now. If you ever got in order to use a credit card, for example, if there's a dispute, they say you must go through arbitration, and companies are always want to use arbitration because the courts, they're expensive. It takes a long time, and the courts usually side with individual. A lot of times they'll side with individuals who've been wronged. But this is getting to the place where making a living is becoming harder and harder and harder as an employee who gets wages or salaries. It's just bottom line. If your employer screws you, apparently you really can't do a whole hell of a lot about it. As far as now, you can go by yourself. You can go something. You can go a court case alone. But what they don't want is a bunch of people banding together. And I don't know this. I don't know this. Of course, the narratives fall neatly into left versus right. Um, Neil Gorsuch sides with big businesses, big donors, and what is that? Big bosses. Okay, that was the Washington Post. Um, let's see if there's any other good tweets. Good morning, America. It's your friend, Neil Gorsuch. Oh, wait, no, that's not right. Friend isn't really the right word, is it? Unless you're a major corporation. That is, conservatives really need to stop pretending they care about the American worker. Okay, so I don't know. Again, I'll link this story in the description of the the description box underneath this video. And since and on another topic, since I'm on here, wanted to tell you guys too. You might be seeing on your, in various places online, businesses up talking about we've updated our privacy policy. Well, there's a good reason for that. That has to do with the General Data Protection Regulation of the EU, which is kind of why I'm here at this entity I'm coming at you at from DC, because I've been helping them with this. The General Data Protection Regulation was created by the European Union in 2016, and it goes into effect this Friday. Let's see, this Friday, the 25th of May. It says here the GDPR will be enforceable on May 25th, 2018, yet many businesses are not ready. And Tech Republic, I like this site, by the way, gives a list of 10 things your business should do now to become GDPR compliant. And I'll read to you what it says here. Let me make this a little bigger for you. The European Union General Data Protection Regulation becomes fully enforceable on May 25th, 2018. According to recent surveys, 60% of companies polled are going to miss the deadline. It's a sobering number considering how severe the fines and penalties could be for companies found to be non-compliant in the aftermath of a security breach. The reality is many businesses still do not understand what compliance with the GDPR really means. With perhaps a few exceptions, every business that collects personal data from customers, clients, and vendors is going to experience a security breach where that data is exposed, compromised, and/or stolen. This inevitable fact is just one of the costs of doing business in an interconnected world. The GDPR does not and cannot expect businesses to patch unknown security vulnerabilities or to avoid security incidents altogether. However, the GDPR does require businesses to make every effort to mitigate the damage security breaches have on people, particularly EU citizens. So let's see here. What's going on here is that the GDPR is really designed to protect the data, the personal data of residents of the EU. And this place where I'm personally sitting has members all over the world, so they're subject to it. And the penalties for not complying are astronomical. Like 4% of annual revenues or 20 million, whichever is larger. Yeah, 20 million. Is it 20 million or 20 billion? I forgot what. Jeez, I should know this. I apologize, but a lot of times I'll just jump on here and start talking off the top of my head. Um, but anyway, there you can go. I'll link to this Tech Republic article as well. Um, let's see. Let me see if there's anybody. See if there's anybody in the chat right about now. Angel, how you doing? Donald Dollar Will. Yeah, it is BS, but how much Dollar Will? Come on now. You know the workplace has become an awful place in the last 20 to 30 years. And I can personally attest to it. Not only you've got this, not only do you have at will employment, you have at will employment where they can just, you can be fired for any reason. As I've said many times, go back into my videos about me being fired for sexual harassment. Yes, I was fired for sexual harassment that I didn't know I was committing. Apparently I made somebody uncomfortable. Go back to that video, go back and and just go back to that video and go back to my second video on my old channel just talked about my life in general, how I think about work and everything, life and work. But oh, you said you led a movement and a bargaining unit in a negotiation. Yeah. So I don't know what to say. I mean, it just keeps looking like we're living under this minor form of this general form of fascism and everything. How do you get the government to do things when the government is already owned lock, stock, and barrel by corporations? How do you do that? I think the way to do it is you gotta do some shit on the local level. Yeah, Dollar Will said class action is dead. Well, it might be on life support, but it's not totally dead. I'm sure I don't know, maybe they'll find ways around it. But I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong, but they may find ways around it. Um, Hold on, real quick. But so yeah, there were two. So the two topics were the of this little quick live stream were Hey, Dollar Will, do you want to get on this live stream real quick? I can't be on, but maybe for 10 more minutes. But could you come on real quick? If I send, if I send you a copy of if I send you the link, let me stop the screen sharing real quick. Okay, I'm back to being the 4B logo. Yeah, okay. Hold on one second. Uh, can you give me? Do you? I don't know your email. Do you want to put it out here, or let me do this? Send me your email. Let me see here. I haven't been in this email in about a minute. Okay. Oh, there it is. All right. Yeah, if you can send me, yeah, if you, Dollar Will, if you can send me your email real quick, maybe we can chop this up for about 10 minutes because I want to hear your perspective on the Supreme Court ruling. And anyway, and then the GDPR, that's again, you're seeing, that's why you're seeing a lot of privacy policy changes all of a sudden in that, on various websites and whatnot. If you've been paying attention. Oh man. Okay, let's see. Or you know what? Should I should I just take a chance and put it directly in the chat and hope nobody screws? Oh, okay, you sent it. Good. All right. All right. Social. All right. Primary social promotions. Oh, my promotions tab is empty. All right. Hold on. It's taking a while for it to come. Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, it's come back your way, sir. It's coming back your way. 2 viewers. Of course, I guess that should be expected because I just jump on at random moments. You know, other YouTubers you can set your watch by, not Quad B. He'll pop up anytime. Okay. Hey, I just jump on it. Hey, if you could turn down. Hey, there you go. How you doing?
Oh yeah, I'm good, man. I'm sorry for that rookie mistake and
Oh,
didn't
so
mute it.
that's all right.
I saw this story just come up on my Facebook. I got so pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even I got the highlights of it, but it's how could the courts all right, okay. We have laws. We
Mm-hmm.
have laws in the future come out. And here we are 75 years later, we're looking at two sets of laws, and the courts didn't look at them as successive.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent law, obviously, the people who made the what are we talking about? We're going back to like the Taft-Hartley Act and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when
Mm-hmm.
when that right to have a union, to organize yourself as a collective bargaining unit, was created, they knew about that prior law.
Mm-hmm.
So why would the courts today presume that the courts in the past were not mindful of the implications to a prior law when they were giving you your right to unionize and act collectively on against company violations? This is counterintuitive.
Because they don't give a shit. I mean, I can't think of anything else with that.
I mean, it was bad enough in right to work states. It's just a quick thing, right to work, states. Again, this is just really, I'm just so pissed. But in right to work states, you can have a union, but you don't have to join. A group can create a union, but as a worker, you can say, I don't want to be in the union. I don't want to pay the dues.
Mm-hmm.
But in that situation, the union is required to represent you, even if you don't pay the dues.
It's funny you mentioned that. I knew a guy when I was at a news. You may or may not know, I was at a newspaper in Denver in the '80s and '90s, and we were represented by a union, the newspaper guild, and there was one dude who was not, who he did not want to pay union dues and whatnot.
Scumbag.
And now here's the thing, though. Fast forward 20 years, and I saw this dude, white dude, at a newspaper reunion in 2014, and we got together for lunch, and I asked him about, that whole union thing, and he said to me, it was a mistake for him not to, it was a mistake for him not to, um, support the union,
Great.
Yeah, he actually admitted it was a mistake. I said, "Oh," and I didn't get into any more detail. I guess I guess he got jammed up a little bit because sooner or later your turn is gonna come. So, I thought, you know what, this is a decent salary, and you know, and here's the thing. I'll say it. We were most of the, a journeyman reporter at that time with 5 years experience in Denver usually made about 42, 43, 44,000 a year, which back then wasn't bad for living in a place like Denver where real estate was kind of down and things were not as expensive as they are. But anyway, go ahead. That
Yeah,
was just an
yeah. But
aside.
no, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, when I was in my union activities, this was in the '90s.
Hmm.
And I'll just say I also worked for a media organization. I don't want to
Okay.
be more specific than that.
Okay.
Okay, but it was primarily white. Most of them I would say, would have defined themselves as conservative or libertarian, and they had all of these ideas that unions keep bad workers around, and they allow people to exploit the company because it's hard to fire them. All of these are myths.
Hmm.
Companies can fire you even if you have a contract. The problem is companies are discriminatory, and I mean that in the legal sense, that they against picking on people of in the protected classes,
Hmm.
blacks, minorities, and women, basically what it comes down to. And they also like the freedom to play favoritism, even among white folks. Okay, and so what they do is companies are lazy about keeping the records to fire the bums who come late to work all the time and abuse sick leave and all that kind of stuff. And then they make you think that it's your union that's making it hard to get rid of the worker. No, it's that daggone boss who has some suspect behavior and some disparities on how he's disciplined people in the past. They're their own problem.
Hmm.
Okay, so they use that to make people not join unions. So now with this new lawsuit, they're saying you have to let me back up. There's a culture in companies that says keep your business private, and that's to the betterment of the and benefit of the company. Mean keep your salary private. Don't discuss that with other workers. Keep your treatment with how the process go that you got to went that you get. How did you come to have this special assignment? Did you apply for it? Did the manager come and offer it to you? You know, all of these things that affect who gets promoted and how much you get paid. The culture in corporate America encourages people to not be public about that kind of information.
Correct.
And because when that happens, you can be discriminated against. Now, and when you have to file a lawsuit, which I've had the misfortune to have to do, okay, it's a horrible experience, you know. It ended in a settlement, but still it takes years out of your life and messes you up and you end up losing faith in the whole process. If you think you're negative now, try a lawsuit. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, it's very difficult for one person to gather information to prove their point. Okay. The company is innocent until proven guilty, and you have a huge mountain to climb to prove that your rights have been violated. And so with this law, people are even less likely to you're not going to be it's going to be very difficult for one person to gather all of the information, because people are going to want to stay to themselves and keep private. And if they don't have anything to gain out of it by being, you know, in the party suing, they're going to keep their mouth shut. They're going to keep their information private. And so even the lone wolf who's willing to go and try to slay the dragon, he's not likely to get as much help.
You're right. You're right. And this is
Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. That's what it is.
And what do you think? You know, what do you think about Neil Gorsuch himself? Do you know much about him?
No.
Other than I don't know much about him, other than he was, like I said, he was the son of a former EPA administrator who was Gorsuch and his mom are from Colorado, so I know that much about them. But no, I just wanted to get your take on this. Since you say, you know, you were a union organizer and whatnot. But yeah, you're right. It is hard. I always thought it was harder for a company to fire you if you had an employment agreement or union representation.
Yes, it is harder, but people think that it's impossible or it's difficult. It's not difficult. It just takes longer. If you're not in the union, you can pretty much, if you're, as you said, at will. That's basically a category of employment where that says that there's no implicit agreement or expectation for you to have a long relationship with the company. You're an at-will worker, at the company's will, basically. And so they can just tell you to get out, and it's hard to prove what is that called wrongful termination, because you had no expectation of having anything resembling a permanent job. In fact, in most policy manuals, they've taken the word permanent out. They used to call you a permanent hire. They've called, now a lot of manuals you see, they'll use the word regular hire. They don't say that word permanent, because that implies a relationship, you know, that you have some expectation. And so as an at-will worker, you know that when they call you at will, and basically everyone that's not in a union is pretty much an at-will worker.
You know, let me ask you this. I've heard that in Montana, for example, the only difference or wrinkle in at will is that, at least if you're hired in Montana, you got to work there. You're supposed to be able to work 90 days before they decide to can you. You know, I had that. That's what I've heard, but I don't know if that's the case. Have you heard anything like that?
No. So you're saying that they have to, you must get 90 days before they can let you go?
In Montana.
Wow.
Just Montana. That's what I've heard, but I don't know that for sure.
Wow. No, I know another thing is I remember, way back when I entered the workforce. Again, I graduated high school in '82, so we're talking
Mhm.
ancient times for everybody listening now.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. I
back
graduated college in '81. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So back
Go ahead.
back in the '80s, it was standard practice that when you were hired on a job, you got 90 days probation.
Correct.
Now it's standard, 66. I'm sorry, 6 months to 9 months. That's more the norm now on probation.
Hmm.
So companies, extended that. So you're going to get abused and intimidated. A whole lot of stuff is going to happen to you in that 90 days. You better not
Hmm.
say a word. But if you have a contract, there's a grievance and arbitration section of the contract.
Hmm.
And the company has to follow those particular rules if they want to discipline you in any way. And then your shop steward and your union, they have on file how other workers in the past were treated that did what you did. And so
Hmm.
the company has to be, measured and even with how they respond. You can't have a union protects you from one guy, one manager just being an idiot because he was especially mad that day. He wants to, offer
Hmm.
like 5 times the amount of discipline on you because he's just mad that day. And besides, he doesn't like you anyway. Okay,
Hmm.
unions protect you from that, and good contracts and good union representation at least makes it even. But if you're a continual goofball, they can get rid of you, and the union can't do beyond what the contract says. The union can make sure that you get the rights afforded to you in the contract, which is above what at will workers or non contract workers have.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
So it's something, but it's not a whole lot more, but it's something. And I generally believe that it is better than it's worth the little bit you pay in dues. So if
Yes, sir.
anybody out there puts a union card in front of you, sign it and take that person for a beer for having the
Yeah.
courage
Yeah.
to even put a card in
Definitely.
front of you.
Because yeah. Well, as you know, around the time you graduated high school and the time I graduated college was around the time that Ronald Reagan entered office and he fired those air traffic controllers,
That's
and
right.
that was the signal. It was open season on unions.
That was it. That was
Hmm.
it. Because they
Yep.
went out on strike, and he cut them.
How do you find? Yeah. How do you? And these were essential federal employees. Now I don't know how they. I guess them supervisors were really really stressed out having to take over those controller duties until they
Yeah,
could
well,
hire
when
some more.
when it's 2 feet of snow, you're essential. When it's time to give you a safe, sane work environment, you're not essential.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. I don't know what to do, what to say, but it all starts at the top and the shit just rolls downhill. It's just I don't know what to say, but look, I appreciate you giving your perspective on this dollar will really really do on such short notice.
Yeah,
But
there's another gentleman. I really don't want to name his name because I don't want to pick fights. But
sure, sure, go ahead.
there's I respect the guy. He does a show and talks about a lot of data and stuff. And I just heard him last week, ironically, saying that people need to sue for this and that. I'm like, man, I mean, yes, we do need to, but it's not like it's an uphill battle.
Hmm.
If you saw the data from the EEOC,
Hmm.
it would break your heart because there's a huge number of cases or complaints that never make it to court.
Hmm.
It is so hard to you go through that process, and it's just so many. Basically, even if when you go to the EEOC, you go in there, you get a right to sue letter, and once you come
Hmm.
out of that, the companies have so many ways they can make the court case take forever.
Hmm.
The slightest little thing, you could be 6, 7 years into it, still never gotten to court, and
Hmm.
they're just hoping that you get hit by a bus or something.
Yeah, there you go. Oh God. That's why I did some investigating after I was let go for that harassment thing in 2016. And
Mhm.
I went to EEOC. I was pissed. I went to EEOC, but they told me they couldn't find evidence of discrimination. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks.
And it's like we're so selfish as a country. We have folks running around calling themselves conservatives and libertarians and all that, but as soon as something happens to them as an individual, now they want all the daggone rights.
Mm-hmm.
They want all the protections because that's really when it matters that you are an American, okay? Because that's what distinguishes us, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The level of treatment of you as an individual, your individual rights. If without that, then we're no better, you know, than
Mm-hmm.
we're not. There's nothing distinguishable about us as a country, okay?
You
So
got that right.
we got to stop personalizing things when we don't like a particular individual, so therefore we want to throw out the rights. Like I hear people talking about because they're mad at black women, they want to get rid of social services. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when we need the tweaks, we need some tweaks, of course, lots of places in our system. I think capitalism got its problems. It needs to be tweaked, but we can't just throw everything out.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be more have show some more discerning in how we fix these problems and not I hate to say it, emotional.
Well, we are an emotional people, so that's going to be an uphill battle to fight our emotions. That's for sure. Anything? I'm going to have to jump off of here now. But anything else you want to add, Dollar Will?
No, I just want to apologize for not being totally coherent because I just read a little bit of this, heard a little story from a radio station, and it just pissed me off so much. We got set back, y'all. This was
No,
a
this is
huge
big.
set.
This
This
is
is
big.
big. This is big. So when you go to work, if you anybody listening, if you are having a conflict with your boss at work, shut the hell up. I know you're right. I believe you, but the law is not on your side. Shut the hell up and take the money.
Take the money. It's better
Okay?
than
They got us. They
mm-hmm.
got us all right now. They got us by the crosshairs. Okay? This is
Mm-hmm.
not the time to fight. No, don't
Mm-hmm.
fight. Don't fight. Don't get on your moral high horse. Just get the money.
Mm-hmm.
Take the L. Take the
Take the
cash.
L. Take the L. That's right. Take the L. Take the cash. Like Yada said, keep your head down. Stay, however long you have to build up your money, stack your bread, and get the hell out when you're ready.
That's
And
right.
this is what I've been preaching since I've been on YouTube. We need families, at the very least, the family units, whether they're nuclear. Well, I don't like the nuclear family anymore for a lot of reasons that I've delineated in the past.
Let's just say
But
we need support
we
networks.
need support networks, or yeah, support networks. They can be your extended family or whatever, but we need we need support networks that can counteract this over, because I don't see this crap being reversed for another generation. I don't see it. But this, for those of you who just are listening, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that employers can force their employees to sign away rights to sue their employers, to the point of, if it theoretically allows employers to engage in small scale wage theft, which will affect your immigrants who are in fast food and whatnot, or small, lower paid positions. Guys like me, we will, who've been in the workforce for a while, making salary. I don't worry about that too much, but there are a lot of people out there who are vulnerable. And as well, I also spoke about this general data protection regulation in the EU. That's why you've been seeing a lot of changes to privacy policies and various websites you visit. I think that has a lot to do with it. That regulation takes effect on Friday. I'll probably come back with a little more on that. So, Donald, Will, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's all I wanted to cover. Thank you all for watching. Yada Char, thank you for being here to mod. And Dollar Will, again, thank you for your input on this situation. This is a big deal. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, talk it
Um,
up, you guys. Get your favorite channels you watch. Get them to talk about this
mhm,
subject. People need to know about this sea
that's right.
change. This is huge.
Yes, this is, and also, and as I always say, um, you know, if you like this live stream, share it. I'm gonna leave it up. You can share it. You can like it. And please subscribe to the Quad B channel and click on the bell so that when Quad B uploads new content or does a live stream, you'll be notified. And until next time, I wanted to say, until next time, Dollar Will, thanks a whole bunch. Yada, Char, Angel, those who came on and stopped by, and those of you watching, thank you very much. And again, this is Quad B saying peace, deuces, God bless. We'll see you later. Take care. Dollar Will, take care of yourself.
All right, peace.
Peace.